What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Algorithm. We're here for episode 20. I'll be doing this show solo today. JC had a few other things he had to handle, but we can take the ball and run with it today, riding solo because we got a lot to unpack. Really, we're going to be covering obviously what's been lighting up our feeds and unpack, the latest in what we've seen from branding, creative work, a little bit about what's going on in AI and the world of CPG, and then other interesting things that we have come across our feed that we feel is worth covering. We're in the dead heat of summer right now. It hit 100 degrees just 2 days ago in Miami. I think that was the first time that happened since I think 1942. So we're feeling the heat, but we're also seeing things heating up across the algorithm, across really the industry, and there's a lot to unpack today. So we can get into it as we show the rundown here. We'll be covering a few brand refreshes that we've come across, mainly being Instagram rolled out a new identity that I think is worth diving into. There's a lot happening in the world of CPG, brands that have filed for bankruptcy, brands that are launching new products. There's always interesting things going on in consumer brands. So I think it's worth diving into. Of course, AI, it's not going away. It's something that is rapidly evolving and that we're adapting to. And some things are good and some things aren't so good. So we always want to stay on the pulse of what's happening in the world of AI. And then lastly, creative campaigns and stunts that we think are interesting and worth kind of covering. So we can jump right into it with Instagram. They rolled out a refreshed identity, mainly being their word mark and their brand system. As you can see here, it's really an updated word mark, kind of like what's on the masthead, what you see at the top of your, of your feed when you are, what's it called? When you go onto Instagram, the first thing you see is obviously their logo at the very top of the app. So this is kind of like the adaptation that you can see here. It's kind of a refinement. They removed a lot of the script elements. It feels a lot more honed in, sharper. It doesn't have that artistic kind of calligraphy or hand-drawn feel, which I feel gave it a little bit more personality, but it seems like they wanted to lean into something that's more refined, something that's a little bit more precise, while still maintaining some of the cursive elements that they had from the original. They, as they show here, they really updated things based on the spacing, based on ligatures and all the other elements that come with the lettering of the word mark. It obviously came with mixed reviews from the world. And they also, showed some of the other examples of what they explored, all the other options. I'm not mad at it, honestly. I think that there is some charm to it, but I do feel that they lost a little bit with like leaning away from the script. Like it feels less human in a sense, but so it's trying to straddle that line of what is something that feels tech forward while still having that human touch. So it evolved. It's still script based font, but if you could tell that it feels like it's an adaptation that leans more on the tech side of things. What the director of product and creative wrote was, what we love about the script is that it cues individual handwriting, creative expression, and a personal voice. I agree with that, but I feel that also this updated version, you lose a little bit of that. So I don't know. The one thing I won't say is that I don't hate it. I think that a lot of people are very quick to jump in and say that they hate this and they kind of bash it. But in reality, I feel like in a matter of days, if not weeks, people will kind of like fall in line in the sense that they will accept it as is and they will completely forget that this happened. It doesn't feel like something that's such a big departure that it's going to be in front of your face. Even when they've done major overhauls of their UI, their interface, and elements of their app, people have really come out and said that they don't like it, and then they come back and they realize that it's all right, it works. So alongside the word mark, they reimagined the broader brand system. So some of the elements that are part of how they gets shown in some of the advertisement and some of the other kind of creative and imagery and visuals and graphics that they come out with. They've kind of adapted some of that stuff. So I think that it's a holistic approach. The main thing people see is just a word mark and how that is being affected, but there's a lot of things that go into this. This is not just something like slap on a new logo and then move forward. Some of these elements show you the little kind of edge work that comes with the framing of a camera, or like the section that you tap to focus on your camera. So it's bringing in elements to the interactive element of when you're using your phone camera, and the UI elements that are native to that. And here again, from their creative director of design, great design knows when to step back. We pared everything down so the community shines, not just the branding. So that's their argument for this, is like make it more focused on the content, the people that use the platform, and less on the brand and being brand forward. And then also here, like, I guess some of this, the gradient pieces, the little hand-drawn elements, I like that touch to it, how they use that to like circle certain things. That feels very handcrafted. So they removed that element from the word mark itself, but brought it in other ways with some of the textures and some of the little graphic elements that they use to get their point across. So this was a project that I did with Studio Koto, and they always do a good job of kind of showcasing either the behind the scenes or how it gets applied. And you see here at the top of the app, this is what it looks like now. It doesn't, if you open the app and you didn't know that this happened, you probably wouldn't even look twice. It feels like a progression that feels natural in a sense. So I think that they accomplished that. It doesn't feel like you open the app and you're like, what is this? This is a whole different brand. And they just showed kind of like how it gets applied to things like the watermark on videos, how it looks like on a billboard and other print collateral. Also just some of the explorations that they went through when it came to the ligatures of the connective letters. So I think that this is a cool behind the scenes peek as to things that they explore. And so to me, this is definitely something that I love to see as a designer, as a brand, architect. I think that there are elements to this that show the work that goes behind making a logo and making a brand identity. It's not something that just gets done. I didn't mention at the beginning, we're doing this solo, but we were going to have a special guest join in today, and we have another member of the team in Adrian Lorenzo. He is an artist. He's a creative part of the Cultura creative team, but he wanted to jump in here to show some support and chime in. He's not necessarily as deep into it as JC and I, but we always appreciate the feedback. So, Adrian, I don't know if you want to say anything or just want to hang out here, but yeah.
First time caller, long time listener. Been in this from the inception, watching it happen. I'm in the most dad duty that I'm doing right now is like we're straight up on the swing. She hasn't wanted to get off the swing, but yeah, wanted to make sure you don't go dolo on the stream, But just exceptionally excited about this show overall, and exceptionally excited that this exists, and whatever I can do to support, I'm gonna do. So you can have me in this as long as I want until she decides it's time to not be on the swing anymore.
So we're just talking about the Instagram brand refresh. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it on your phone.
I can.
Some of the updates that they did. The main thing being the logo, right? Like you could see it here at the top of you open up the app, and this is what it looks like now.
Yeah.
What it used to look like was the more script based. And my point is that I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I think that it leans a little tech forward, but it doesn't feel like such a departure that you're like, hey, what just happened? So I could see why they did this in the sense that like their argument is they wanted to remove some of that kind of hand-drawn human element from the logo itself and add it to other elements. Like they've when it comes to kind of showcasing certain parts of like how they speak, you can see here, like in this example, close friends only, and in the only they have a hand drawn circle, and so it feels like they're bringing it in the communication in other ways, not necessarily in the logo itself.
Yeah.
But as being such a big brand as Instagram, there's clearly going to be people that are going to come out and say, you know, they hate it, they're not fans of it. I think it's one of those things that you're just going to accept and forget about in probably a week or two. And so, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are.
What do you think about it?
I think it's fine. I think I understand where they're going with it. I think it was a little done in a sense of maybe they just felt they haven't done anything in 10 years. So I felt like maybe they felt like they just had an itch to do some sort of update and something a little bit noticeable without it being an overhaul. So I feel like it's more of that than a necessity. I didn't think that this was needed, but I think that it was intentional. It was done relatively well, but it doesn't come without its source of people that are going to be against it. So that's kind of my take on it.
I think you're going to have your people against it no matter what, no matter if it's dope, no matter if it's like, definitely if it's bad, people are definitely going to be against it. But this feels very safe to me.
Yeah.
It feels like, it reminds me of the Marlins, like, rebrand after the pinwheel color, like the orange, black, like, and they pivoted to something, and you had this opportunity. If you haven't done something in 10 years and you have this opportunity, like you just kind of played it really like safe so as to almost like not really noticeably do like I noticed today when I opened the app too. I was like, oh, that's different, right?
Yeah.
But then I immediately like kept going with my life. There was no introspection, no introspective moment to like, oh, what they do here design wise, like what was and I'm sure the thing is, because it is a corporate logo redesign, you know that people put a lot of time into this, and there was a lot of options and a lot of aggressive options, conservative options. A whole group wanting to just stay the same, to land here, it feels like you didn't take the risk. You did something, but you didn't take the risk.
Yeah, I mean, they literally say it's fresh and simple is what but they show here in this example of like, what. Let me see if it plays again, but yeah, it's this kind of showed a glimpse of the different options that they went through. Some were very script forward, some were even more sans serif, like very like almost like what you see on Google. So they did explore the full range, but they landed on something that was just kind of like somewhere in between, safer, simple, what they consider fresh, but I feel like is I felt like they just wanted to do something. I don't think that they needed to do something, and so that's kind of where it's at. This video, we'll play like a few seconds of it so you can see what this designer kind of like talks about. But he kind of like went into it deeper and looked at some of the different options and shared his thoughts.
But what about the ones that they didn't choose? Here's the 32 other options that Instagram explored, but didn't go with. So I asked 26 of my designer friends to rank their top 3, and thank God no one chose this one. I'm Ryan Selvey, and I cover creative stories. You can break the concepts into like 5 categories. Number 1 would just be safe. They would probably be labeled as blanding. I thought this one was cool. The G resembles the main icon, but the 2 would probably end up competing too much, so that it's just not really worth it. A lot of friends actually like this one. I couldn't get over the idea that the tail of the G was making this bowl so tiny. Then we have the heavy boys. This would have been crazy. It feels very Gen Z to me. And then we have the script ones, or how my friend Kevin says, some DocuSign default signatures. And I know this is a hot take, Emily, but this is actually my second place one. It feels very human, kind of like the Paul Smith logo, but arguably probably would have a hard time fitting into existing identity systems. And then there's the evolutions. They kind of feel like direct responses to the old logo, and these got a ton of votes. It's the category that I would probably put the new final logo in, but that's not a part of this list. And also, it's where I would put my first and third place choices. This ligature in particular, between the A and the M, is so satisfying. And then, I don't know, just kind of weird. These parallel diagonals are conceptually cool, but probably would never make an actual logo. But I appreciate the exploration. All right, so how do they all stack up? Here's the top 7. Do you agree? Do you think that any of them should have been the final instead? Shout out to the design teams for sharing their process. I hope that they're on some remote island avoiding all of these thought pieces. Follow for more fun design stuff on your feed.
So I think he did a really good job of kind of showcasing at a glance, also giving his POV on which ones he liked and didn't. I probably agree with him on some of those examples in his top 3. And yeah, there was some other explorations there that I felt were probably better solutions, but I'm sure there was a chain of command, there was other input that forced them to, settle for something that was in between and not necessarily as exploratory, as human and script forward as, we talked about here. But yeah.
It just feels very kind of like it just like kind of blends into everything else. It doesn't really kind of move, like you said at the beginning, it doesn't really move the needle either direction. It's like you did something, and I'm not, it's a clean design, but I feel like we're in this era. I think I had this conversation with you earlier today of where the minimalist stuff it's kind of like we've reached every version of this minimalist design, and now I don't know, I feel like we're correcting out of that cycle. And so therefore things that are more cutting edge may lean a little more, I don't know, hand drawn to me feels a little more relevant. Right. So like, I know we're very partial to Chantal, at least I am as a font. But I do that because it feels relevant. It feels like, I don't know, that's a personal preference, I guess. Sure. But even like the collage style, kind of offset, like different texts, making up the lettering and stuff. I think we're in more of a place for that kind of thing. And then we're always in a place for Art Deco. I could have liked to see some like Batman the Animated Series type, but again, that's an ambitious and a kind of like aggressive direction to take, and it doesn't feel, given where they landed and even the range provided, feels like it falls squarely within, like it's all down the fairway,
Yeah, 100%. And then speaking of brands that also did an update, 7-Up did something as well. They kind of like refined their identity, the packaging mainly. But this is kind of like the before and after. I sent this to JC. My opinion is I don't necessarily like it. I think it lost some of the uniqueness. Like, look at how this has like a more dynamic shape. It's it's asymmetrical, it's angled, it fucking gives you a little bit of like dynamism within the identity versus like this, especially with the lemon lime here. We were talking about minimalism. Like, look, there's at least drop shadows or things to show you there's depth. There's no depth here. This feels like flat as it can be. This feels like if you dropped this in 2015, I would have been like, okay, cool. But I feel like it's 10 years too late. But that's my opinion. What do you think about it?
Design-wise, I think I line up with you. If you're asking me to go left or right, I'm going to go left, So it doesn't feel like they took like some step forward. I do think it's clean. So I think it, if you see it in like if you see the can on the right in like a vending machine with other options, I think it is going to be among the top designs. So I think like they're working from I think 7-Up, just the number 7, the U and the P, like it's just like a clean 3-letter or 3 character design. So I think they have that in their favor. But honestly, this is the first I'm learning in a long time that 7-Up is still an existing brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm curious about this at large. Obviously, like we have Coke and Sprite products like in the fridge all the time, so I see them more. But sodas overall have to be having like a low moments, culturally speaking, in this era of sparkling waters and in this era of like kind of flavored but not sugared kind of drinks. I feel like soda has to, I don't know, maybe that's just my segment of America, but it feels like it's not driving culture the same way they used to by any means. Like in the 90s and the, even like Gatorade, where Gatorade was everywhere before. It's like just, I think we've corrected out of that era of just kind of like ingesting as much sugar overall as we can, and therefore these things have less cultural relevance. But that's my kind of layman's opinion,
Yeah, and I think obviously all these Coca-Cola and Pepsi brands have like introduced zero sugar and alternate quote unquote healthier options, but I still feel like there's a stigma associated with them, and there's also competition rising on the other end with like probiotic and prebiotic sodas or other beverages that have, you have things that are like flavored waters that are much more unique and almost like straddle the line of like, I get the flavor I want, but it's still a water and not necessarily a soda that has all this sugar and syrup. So like, I mean, I know that there's probably like a blurred line there that they're both probably bad for you, but I
Yeah.
feel like perception and obviously the options and the up and comers, the poppies and the Ollipops of the world, I think that those are the ones that are like starting to eat up a little bit of the market share, and yeah, make it difficult for these legacy brands to really stand out. This was the first time that they did anything in about 15 years, so I guess they were due for something. Um, and I think yeah, it was probably very contingent on the packaging as it looks on shelves and in
Yeah.
vending machines and other stuff like that. I just felt that I haven't seen too much other than like so this is before and after of what the mark looks like.
Yeah.
In application, I guess also this is international markets versus like US.
Yep.
So this looks completely different. I almost like
A lot of
this
the
in a sense.
international stuff it's always more design forward than what hits the U.S. markets. Is that
Yeah.
just me or is that actually?
I think I mean there's just a more of an open palette for alternative design. I
Yep.
think I feel like
I think that's
there's
right.
a level of corporate safety in the U.S. market that I think new up and coming brands are starting to push the envelope,
Right.
but these legacy brands you could tell they're very safe.
Right.
So
Competitive edge.
yeah. So I mean, again, it doesn't look bad, but I don't feel like this moves the needle either. I just feel like
Yeah.
it's very much a simplification move for packaging and how it looks on the different applications. Clearly, you eat up a lot more space here, and it makes it like yeah, basically let's maximize the canvas, especially on these
Right.
cans and
Right.
the packaging here. So that's all I took away from it. It was more of like how do I maximize the real estate more than
Yeah.
like how do I amplify this brand and introduce it in a way that's reintroduce it in a way that's like memorable. So
Yeah. It's yeah, to me this doesn't stand out as memorable, but also kind of like the previous subject. It doesn't feel like a miss or a whiff either. Like if they didn't, it's not a Jaguar campaign.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, like if we were doing in baseball terms, it's like hitting a single.
Yeah, it's a nice little well hit single up the middle.
Yeah.
Like fine, you got on base, It's not
Yeah.
it's not a backspin home run into right center field, It's
Yeah.
like but if I can just because this has made me think about it and the kind of like the sparkling water versus the soda debate really or not even a debate, but like is relevant. And like I have to give a shout out to Mineragua. Like I've discovered them as as my favorite sparkling water, the plain one. I know they have, it's Jarritos, as the dog behind me is agreeing. But Jarritos is the brand, but the Mineragua in particular, I'm wondering if you've ever seen it. Like it's kind of like the most simplistic design and brand. They're the glass bottle route,
Okay.
right? And it's really really kind of like it's relevant to me right now because it has become like whereas I used to be like when I was drinking soda, it was like I love glass bottle Coke. I love like a treat with that crispness. And this to me has found, not the plastic bottle, but this, exactly. And I just, I want to give them their props because as I'm drinking it and now that I'm spending more time around you, I'm thinking about design of product a lot more. And I think that these guys have nailed it, like they've absolutely nailed it down to like what the cap looks like on the top. It's like a really, really, I just got to give them their props because I think they have an elite product and they have like really clean, simple design. So yeah, just my worthless 2 cents here.
No, I mean definitely. I also like when they take a risk and do stuff on the bottle. It's expensive, but either the silhouette or as they did
Yes.
here with the texture on it, there's
Yep.
just something, especially when you have something in your hands that it's not plastic. This is memorable. The same way that a glass Coke bottle and its
Yeah.
silhouette stands out. Like these kinds of things help people, like feel like it's different and memorize
Yep.
like what that feeling is like. So
It gives me like the same weight of drinking a beer, right? Like drinking a Presidente in the Dominican Republic or something, or a Corona. It has like that same kind of weight to it. And obviously you're not drinking something alcoholic, so you're not like, it's not like I don't know, it's not going to make it to many commercials, but there's something to like the weight of the product, like the tangible, like clean product in your hand that I think like I said, I'm biased but they've become, I go through LaCroix, I go through Liquid Death, I go through all sorts of different brands. We'd like to try a lot of them. And this is the one I landed on where it's like the right blend of product design and actual, and they have I don't know if it's sodium bicarbonate, but I swear you can take the lid off, you can take the cap off, take a sip, put it back in the fridge, come back to it later, and it's as fizzy as it was when you opened it.
That's
So
cool.
it's like that can't be said for a lot of brands either. So I think that's my signing off 2 cents here, David, because Amalia's ready to go.
All good.
She's put herself in the car, but thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for being on, man. We'll
See you
talk
guys.
later.
See you later.
So yeah, and kind of wrapping up on the pretty much the brand refresh side of things, the last one here is Calendly, and they actually rebranded not too long ago, and I feel like it had mixed reviews back then. Down here is kind of like what that identity, what their logo looked like, and the C itself, like they did it in different shape, in different colors, and the shape inside would change. It was much more like experimental and different, and they wanted to kind of take a swing, and I felt that they probably over time didn't see how that was congruent with where they wanted to go, or they didn't get the reception they wanted. So they've rolled out a new identity courtesy of Smith and Diction design agency, and they've done a really good job here of kind of like showing what the identity. If I go all the way here to the front, you can kind of see it from the beginning. Just kind of look at the icon itself, what the word mark looks like, the updated icons that you see in app and across the platform, as well as the color palette. I feel like they leaned away from the bold colors and they kind of introduced like these gradients and these like much more like, I don't know if it's jewel tone, but you see the colors have a little bit of a softer tone to it. And you can see here with the typography, they started blending, a sans serif with a serif to kind of mash it up there, which I'm a fan of. I think is a good, dynamic thing. When you see contrast like this, you pay attention to it. It's not like the same font all the way through. Sometimes people mess with like the weights, like something's bold and something's like thinner and stuff like this. I think is a good tactic to really stand out and get people to pay attention to specific words or specific parts of whatever message you're trying to get across. And then they also showed some of the other connective elements that aren't necessarily connected here. Like the C and the A were connected, but they, did a cut out there. Same thing with the E and the N. So kind of liking what they did in terms of the flow and the cohesion with the lettering in certain aspects. And I just think this was a really good showcase of not just here's a new logo, but here's how it gets applied from a UI perspective, from an experience perspective. And just seeing the brand in action is always fun. Again, mixing up here like the more sans serif font up top, and then the subheader being the serif font, the more editorial and classic font. And I think that it looks good. It gives it a certain level of refinement and elevation that I feel like this other identity lacked. And it's still very much in line with tech and design in today's world, but it also has a feeling of humanization and a certain level of like the roundedness that gives you that feeling that I felt that this kind of other identity didn't necessarily accomplish, or at least in the system didn't work out. Mike Smith here, he's part of Smith and Diction. I believe he's like the primary principal behind it, but he kind of explains a little bit. I love when they share some of the behind the scenes, but this part of the tweet, the subtweet, I always find interesting. This is very like being candid. Like, but speaking of the logo, this one was hard. They weren't changing the name because of the solid equity they had built in it, but that made our job that much harder because any symbol you put next to the word Calendly just feels wrong if it's not a calendar. And then he goes on to talk about like which was in direct conflict with the entire job, right? Like we tried dozens and dozens of symbols, all to just land back where they started a cool C. So we love the concept of a rippling C. And he wrote, to be annoyingly designery about it, the symbol represents the idea of how just sending one meeting link or changing one little way of working can change the trajectory of your business, the ripple effect that he's trying to get across. So Calendly is that first ripple. I love the thinking. I love showing the work. I love this kind of stuff. To me, this is what gives context to what a lot of people tend to just look at a logo and give their feedback and move on and never really know what went into it, what thinking and why there were decisions. Also, what guardrails were. Like they clearly said, we had to pretty much settle for not doing a calendar. It's too on the nose. We did not want to continue to follow up on that trope that everyone would think is obviously done with a calendar or a scheduling app. So I think Calendly did a good job here. I would call this probably a double, right? Like in terms of maybe even a triple. I think it's really cool to see how they applied the branding and the color palettes, all this stuff feels, it's not flat at all. There's dimension to it. Even here, the patterns and some of the, I love seeing, these are the kinds of things that as designers, you get excited about, because when you're going to make some sort of graphic or some sort of asset on behalf of the brand, you have like this toolkit of assets you can tap into. And, this could be a background, it could be a border, it could be, some sort of element that gets used in the branding in different applications. So I give a shout out to Calendly and Smith and Diction for doing the work here. I feel like they did a really good job. And then moving on to CPG news, Express Checkout rolled out this last week in consumer brands, which I think covers a lot of the things that we were going to discuss today. So let's go through some of these. Liquid Death partnered with Good Wipes, and they launched a limited edition pack of Scream soda scented flushable wipes with Good Wipes. And so, this is right in line with Liquid Death, and they always try something that is different. They love doing mashups and doing things that are off the cuff that, why would a beverage brand get into a wipe brand? And it's almost like they love creating this friction of what you expect from a soda brand or from a beverage brand, and then they zag. And I love that they're not afraid to take these risks, because they know that so many other water brands and so many other soda brands are just not going to take the risk. They're like bound by these corporate principles, and so Liquid Death is great at that. David Protein, the founder or former, the founder of David Protein, Peter Rahal, he announced that he's doing a new venture now called Hall Pass, and it's really like better for you candy. So it's lower calories, zero sugar, basically remaking the classics, Reese's peanut butter cups and other kind of M&Ms, things like this, just making it less guilty, like not guilt-free maybe, but you feel less guilty knowing that it's only 1 gram of sugar and it's way less calories. So basically indulgence in a better for you packaging and a better for you brand. I love the branding is very 70s inspired, I'd say, with the typography. It's a good mix of this modernism mixed in with, elements of the modern day, like renditions of what these snacks look like. I think it's effective to show what either the product or the flavor on it looks like, and as opposed to something that's more abstract. So I think this gets it across. Like, you don't know if it was so abstract and it was just like a random, icon or some sort of illustration without seeing it. Like, you have to guess what's inside. This kind of gives you an idea of like, what you're about to open up. And so I think that this is great for once it gets on shelves or once it gets in front of people. Like, there's very little education as to like, what's behind it, and especially with the call outs of the lower calories and the sugar reduction. Now the next one is AG1, huge brand, obviously in the D2C world. A lot of people have been hearing advertisements or seeing the branding. Some people, maybe someone of you watching this, take it. It's a greens powder brand, and now they're expanding into gummies. But the biggest call out here is in the packaging, seeing this like electric green being introduced. This used to be this like very deep forest green color that was edge to edge, fully draped across the packaging. And now they've kind of taken a turn because they've seen new competitors entering the space, copying that look and feel. And they're trying to kind of like, they still own that AG1 mark, and it's very obvious, but they're kind of toying with this idea of like, how do we introduce a new color or something else that like adds an accent, adds something else that stands out. So that's my biggest call out here, that it's not just an introduction of these gummies that they didn't have, but it's like, here's like a new way to show the brand from a packaging and design perspective. And then I guess this is a gluten-free option coming out of Goldfish, owned by Pepperidge Farms under Campbell's. So it's like the first ever certified gluten-free cheese crackers that they came out with. Nothing too exciting here, but I mean, I know there's people who cannot eat gluten, and so this might be exciting and something nostalgic for them. A big one that came out was Alex Cooper, famous influencer podcaster. She's shutting down this brand that had a lot of hype behind it not that long ago called Unwell, and it was an energy drink that she like a sparkling energy drink, and it had funding of $500 million in terms of valuation, and it didn't work out. And it just shows that just because you might have a following and just because you're a known name and you have an audience, launching something is easier than ever. And especially if you have connections, you could get it funded as well. But it's this day-to-day operation and how you're going to scale a brand and also adapt to feedback, because a lot of what I've been hearing is people saying, yeah, I think it kind of failed because the name was Unwell. And even though they were trying to be cheeky and do something different, it's kind of weird for people to come to terms with something like, hey, I need some energy, let me take some Unwell. Unless you are Liquid Death and you're going to do something that's really different and brash and go that route, this is like wrapping Unwell in a cutesy way, almost like, I guess, a lot of this mental health awareness and kind of like the discussions of like, it's okay to say that you're unwell. I don't know if it's worth putting on a brand, right? Maybe it's just a phrase you say, but not necessarily call the brand. But yeah, a lot of things didn't go this route, and it just it's another example of like, you can have all the notoriety you want, but sometimes things don't work out, and you have to have operators and you have people that are just like really know this space to be able to help it scale and keep it afloat, because it is difficult to compete with. I mean, how many other brands are there that sell energy drinks? Another big one here, Purely, which is Purely Elizabeth. You've seen it across, right? Target, Costco, everywhere. It's been acquired by Ferrero, and it is a $3.1 billion acquisition. There's pretty much a lot in play here, but this brand has been around for a while, and it's 17 years at this point, and you could tell this like healthier, cleaner kind of approach is it's gaining traction. People are looking at, even if it's incrementally better than picking up a cereal box, Frosted Flakes, or Cheerios, or whatever the case may be. Like, this is clearly proof of concept for almost 2 decades that you can build a brand that has better for you, or like cleaner ingredients, or just gives a little bit more attention to the ingredients and the nutritional value. And clearly there's a lot of value behind this, and it was acquired. So always interesting to see. I don't know if the biggest takeaway is, does this mean it's going to impact the actual ingredients and the quality of the product? I think that's the biggest fear from a lot of people. You see something like this happening and you're like, oh no, does this mean that it's going to change the recipe and it's now no longer going to taste the same, or they're going to cut costs another way? So this is the only fear I have. But whoever launched this brand, give them credit for being able to grow it to that point. And something that was, I'm sure 17 years ago, this was a brand that was not common to see on shelves. And then there's another one, Steven Bruner, former co-founder of Corksicle, launched his first CPG brand, Heist. It's a decaf coffee, pretty much like giving decaf, rebranding it, giving it a different perspective, because a lot of people are like, if I'm not drinking caffeinated coffee, I'm not going to drink it at all. But I have friends that they can't drink they cannot drink caffeine drinks, but they like the flavor and taste and the feeling that comes with coffee. So decaf still plays a big part. And this is a bold take on that, because I don't think you've seen a decaf forward coffee presented this way. So it is, from a design perspective and from a packaging perspective, I think this is one that I'm going to follow to see how, if it gets traction, or what happens with it, because I feel like this is, compared to what's out in the market right now, this is bold. It has an identity that's different, and I'm curious to see how that gets played out. And then, Kim Kardashian again becomes a brand partner for Brock Shot sulforaphane supplement. Sorry, I'm sure like this is something that people know how to say, but I don't know. So it's part of the National Psoriasis Foundation, and I guess she's been involved in so many different projects at this point. I don't know how many more she can get involved, but more success than not with some of these brand launches. But it's hard to keep up, honestly, with with everything she endorses or co-founds. And then Farmers Dogs, they updated their format, so they kind of rolled out this new format beyond frozen meals, like a shelf-stable food which rehydrates into fresh meal under 30 seconds. So usually, like, this is always interesting, is like, how do you do product innovation? How do you do something that an existing product and change the format or change how it gets consumed? Some energy drinks also have powder format, so these are the kinds of things that as a business, especially in this space, you have to think about, because some people don't have a refrigerator that can store this food. Maybe they have to be able to have it in a dry place in their pantry somewhere else. So I think it's like hearing things out and seeing how they can adapt to it. And then Frida, it's been best known for the baby and postpartum products. They're getting into kids skincare now with some of these, with its own little brand of like shampoo and other products here. So toothpaste, deodorant, everything, kids ages 6 to 11. So I think this is a natural transition. You grew up with parents that had newborns and went through birth, and now you're like, hey, by the way, your kids are a little bit older now. Maybe if you trusted us for these things, then maybe you'll trust us for this line of skincare and personal care. So I think it's a smart play. I'm curious to see what the feedback is and what people say about it. And yeah, there's plenty more here that we can get through, but I think we can move on to this next one that I feel is also relevant. So Rebel ice cream, you've seen it at, if you're in South Florida, Publix is, you've seen it at, I believe it's at Target, a lot of the major retailers, as well as Van Leeuwen. But Van Leeuwen was the one that was known for this packaging style, the very like pastel-based script font. And it's actually, they filed a lawsuit in 2021 because Rebel did a like rebrand / repackaging. And I mean, when you put them side by side, it's hard to deny that there are a lot of similarities here. And so pretty much the claim from Van Leeuwen was that they were copying their identity and they were causing confusion amongst consumers. And so, yeah, basically trying to rip off their look and feel. So they filed a lawsuit, and then years later, as most recently, it was successful. And that led to a lot of debt because they were told, Rebel was pretty much told, you got to pay $24 million to pay back for the lost potential wages and sales and basically, or usage of the image and likeness of Van Leeuwen. And then, so Rebel came out and wrote this really long, which I'm not going to go through, but you guys can take a look at it. They basically are now coming out and talking about, what happened, and how this came about, and they're also denying stuff. It's like, pretty much, let us be very clear, we have never in all the years we've been around had a single customer report mixing us up with the said brand. They can't even say them by name. I mean, of course you're not going to get a customer that's going to say that they confused you. That's a little bit embarrassing for them to come out. They would probably just keep that to themselves. So I don't know how much weight that holds, and it feels like you're being a little bit defensive here, because if looking at the eye test, I mean, you look at these two side by side, and I mean, if you squint your eyes, which is the squint eye test is a big thing in branding, it's hard to tell the difference. And that's how you have to imagine. You're going through an aisle, you're going through a grocery store, and you see the ice cream section. And if you see these side by side, it's a frosted glass, maybe you're far away. It's hard to tell me these are two different brands from that distance. Obviously, you get closer and you could read it, but you could tell that there was an intentionality into, the way they repackaged themselves. And there's a reason why Van Leeuwen won the lawsuit, and it took 3 years. So again, it's a little bit of drama that came about this, but again, the problems and my point here is be very aware of your brand and how it looks and feels in the market, and be very wary of trying to just copy another brand, because one bad decision when it comes to this could cost you, in this case, $24 million. So it's the kind of thing that don't just follow the pack, don't just copy what's good, still do something in your own way. You can copy elements that you might want to apply and adapt, but ripping something off and hoping that you get away with it it might cost you literally your company in this case. And we'll see how they come out of bankruptcy and see if they can stay afloat or if they have to go to sale. The next topic here, AI, right? It's something we can't escape. This first one being LinkedIn. They added a button pretty much to report AI generated. So it literally says, seems like AI slop. And so this is coming from TechCrunch. They're taking aim at AI slop, low quality artificially generated content from filling its feed. So they announced this new feature to pretty much have this little button that you could pretty much the same way you would send or connect, all this stuff, like it's nested in there. And they came out and said, AI slop is a top priority for all of us who really care about this. People come to LinkedIn to connect with real people and share their real perspective, ideas, and expertise. Obviously, they're going to say this, at least they addressed it. But there was definitely a time where I felt like I was opening up LinkedIn and everything I read was, this seems AI generated. This seems not so human. It doesn't, you lost some of that personal touch. Even it almost like you wanted to prefer people still being cheesy and corporate because they still wrote it out, as opposed to like now they can be cheesy and corporate, but because AI did it and then they add some M dashes and some, actually it's not this, it's that. And the typical things you see from AI generated copy when it's done on first pass and, no revisions or no voice or kind of direction is given to it. So it's good that they are, coming out and addressing this now. And it's a good thing because I feel like they were getting feedback and hearing it from their followers that it's just something that was kind of turning people off. And so the next one, when it comes to AI here, OpenAI, we talked about them rolling out ads. I switched to their lowest tier, so I see the ads now. It's nothing as crazy as what people think, where it's like in line going to show you a product that's like, as they're giving you the answer, like it's just showing up as like, you should get this. It shows up kind of at the bottom, almost like a display banner. It might be relevant and it kind of makes sense. Like, oh, you're talking about pest control, and then something for like a pest control company might pop up, or something else, Raid, or, a product that's adjacent. I totally see. Sometimes it's not as direct. But again, we saw this coming. They're trying to monetize in different ways. And now they're rolling it out to not just like the initial few that they had, but 31 markets across the US. So you could tell that OpenAI is going to keep going this ad-supported model. It's going to keep them growing from the consumer side while they try and build out all their enterprise stuff, like what businesses and what companies can they get to sell a lot of seats and the enterprise level stuff, as opposed to just their $8 package, $20, $30 package, and onwards. So yeah, ads aren't going anywhere. Claude is the one that said that they weren't going to do ads, but I don't know. Remember they came out with that Super Bowl ad? They better not walk that back, because it's going to bite them in the ass. And then that means that OpenAI just has a step ahead of them in terms of like what they saw becoming the norm. And then also Spotify, they now are taking steps on addressing the AI side of things. So now it says that they will be labeling AI creators, and specifically they wrote something here is that although there's a broad spectrum in how artists use AI as a creative tool, the question of whether a profile represents an actual human is one where Spotify can help make a clear determination. So they're actually not, this is to clarify, it is more about the person. It's not the actual song itself, even though you can provide as an artist the pretty much what you use. So you can say like Spotify will also independently review artist profiles and enforce the new policy, analyzing whether artist names, identities, or images appear to be the product of generative AI. And yeah, AI personas, any music that they upload will be excluded from all Spotify's recommended features, meaning they will not appear in algorithmic. So yeah, they're going to basically remove, you're not going to be exposed as much if you're an AI native or used artist / your work has it. So here's it. So creators uploading music to Spotify will be able to self-disclose if they are using AI for their persona, not for the actual music creations. But it says Spotify recently launched a different tool called AI credits, where artists can share how generative AI is used in the creative process. Meaning like, all right, I actually wrote this, or I performed this using these instruments, or I did the vocals, but then I used Suno or some other platform to make the beat or to update this section of it. Or maybe it's an AI tool, AI feature within a tool, like Audition or some other music platform that you might use to record or compose. So again, this is the landscape right now that people just want more transparency. People want to know in terms of like, hey, was this AI generated? Just give me a heads up. It's been turning some people off. And so I think the move towards transparency and being upfront about it is only a smart thing, because I think people are sick of like having to question everything they're seeing across pretty much any media that they're consuming these days. And then the last section here is creative campaigns and stunts. I think that this one was a little bit hilarious. Liquid Death, as we mentioned earlier, they partnered up with Garage Beer, which Jason Kelsey is a co-founder of, and they tackled the AI data center kind of debate head on and used it as a talking point, used it as leverage to create this just stunt to really get people's attention, because they're obviously not going to do this, but it looks so real. So we'll play the video here so you can kind of get a gist of it and then kind of discuss it.
AI data centers waste millions of gallons of water. That's why Liquid Death and Garage Beer decided to team up. We want your pee to cool these data centers.
We want your pee. Please give us your pee. Let's pee on computers together. 'Cause we need lots of pee. Endless gallons of pee. Join our important endeavor. We want your pee. Please give us your pee.
So absurd.
Let's be on computers together and save humanity. We want your pee.
With Garage Beer's classic light beer and Liquid Death sparkling energy, the light beer of energy drinks, it's never been easier to create pee.
Let's be on computers together and save humanity.
So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and have another Garage Beer or Liquid Death sparkling energy. Then send your pee to the AI data center of your choice. We even make it easy with these collectible, sealable mugs.
So you get the point. It's absurd. You could tell that they're not afraid to come out and make a statement like this, because it's tongue in cheek. It's even some of the claims that are still debatable about how much water AI data centers consume. It's we're coming out and learning new things, but they know what the narrative is. They know what kind of like what people are talking about in water, and obviously energy usage are the biggest ones. And so for them to just throw in their brands into the conversation in an absurd way, I think that it's brilliant. Liquid Death is masterful at being able to do this kind of stuff because they position their brand to be bold and brave and unafraid to look, feel, and speak in a way that, man, so many people are just too afraid to do. So they pick the lane that they feel like nobody's going to even get into. And if they try, it feels like they've carved such a deep path that it's going to make, you're just copying them at this point. So just the synopsis here, the collaborative campaign We Want Your Pee launches with PSA style spot featuring Garage Beer co-owner Jason Kelsey. And yeah, their quote here was, AI data centers waste millions of gallons of water. Kelsey says, to the camera, when he finishes his business, he steps into a wooded meadow and breaks into song, as you saw. So that's, I love when, again, brands do these kinds of things, because this is something worth talking about. This is something worth sharing. This is humorous. It touches a cultural moment and, modern conversation. So yeah, this might be relevant in short order, but it's something that you could probably share this for months, if not the rest of the year, and it'll still have a lot of weight. People would find it humorous and relevant. And the last one here is General Mills. They came out with like this 90s nostalgia clip, which we could share here and discuss. Simple Mills, not General Mills.
Hey, remember me? It's like time never existed. Yeah, I'll take it. Simple Mills snack packs taste as good as snacks from the 90s. And I would know. The only difference, they're made with wholesome ingredients. These are made with watermelon seed flour. That's fancy. I can totally ride this. Pretty hardcore.
So very cheesy 90s style sitcom approach. I think they're clearly talking to like elder millennials, people in their late 30s and 40s that resonate with this style and know the actor and have those kind of connections that would make it relevant to them. I don't think a Gen Z person sees this and is like, oh, what is that? But I think it's smart. It definitely plays into a trend in nostalgia, but something that's really people can visually connect with. It's part of their childhood. I don't know if the messaging, I would probably approach it differently from a messaging standpoint. But I do think that visually how this was composed, the production value of it, and nailed that look and feel. I think it's just sometimes you miss potential in saying a bolder statement or something that's not just a dad joke. So again, that's kind of the roundup today. Again, doing it solo. Had a special guest in Adrian Lorenzo, so we got people to tap in. We might be testing this format a little bit here and there, but JC is itching to come back, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. With that said, I appreciate you all, and see you on the flip side. Peace.